Congress is kind of getting back to work today. And there's a bunch of activity going on the House side in particular with respect to Jeffrey Epstein. The two members, Ro Khanna, a Democrat of California, and Thomas Massie of Kentucky are held a press conference with a bunch of the victims. And then the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, is starting to interview more and more people around that were involved in Epstein. From a political standpoint speaking, I just don't feel like we're handling this situation well. We're keeping it going on an issue where there should be almost finality. So here's what we know, here's what we don't know. But I feel like this Epstein issue should be shut and closed a lot quicker. And I feel like, and maybe this is where I want you to tell me if I'm just wrong on this. Like, we're creating an issue in Epstein that we shouldn't have to create. There's a better way to deal with it.
Well, first of all, Sean, I probably know more about this than perhaps anyone in the country because I wrote a book called The Clintons' War on Women in 2015. The longest chapter in the book is entitled Orgy Island. So when I wrote that book, I had obtained all of the FAA manifest records to show who flew in Epstein's plane and where they went. I also obtained a copy of the little black book that was Epstein's telephone book. Had been sold by Epstein's butler. See, it's always the butler that did it. The butler sold it to a New York journalist who shared it with me. But not everybody in the telephone book was guilty of any illegal or inappropriate activity, although some were. I am totally in agreement with Massie and his colleague. They're going to be very upset when they see who went to the island because they're all Democrats. Bill Clinton, there at least 4 times. I know that because I read the sworn testimony of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, and I interviewed her directly for 6 hours in 2 3-hour sessions. Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary, he was a regular on the island. Bill Richardson, the governor of New Mexico, he went there several times. Don't think it was for the weather. Bill Gates, he was on the island. He's a big Democrat donor. So name me a Republican who's on the island. There is no answer to that because the answer is none. We know that from the manifests. We know that from the records. So it is notable that the Trump Justice Department moved in Florida and in New York to unseal all of the grand jury testimony, making the argument that Epstein has no right to privacy because Epstein is dead and his rights extinguished when he was extinguished. But of course, 2 Democrat judges don't want to release that. So watching Dick Durbin, the guy who sponsored legislation to block the list from ever being released, now demanding release of the list is kind of comical. I'm in favor of absolute full disclosure. The Democrats aren't going to like what they find when they do get the full list because there's no Republicans on it. Here's what we do know. Yes, Donald Trump was on Epstein's plane. This has been known for over 30 years. He flew from Teterboro with his wife at the time, Marla Maples, and his daughter, Tiffany, and a nanny from Teterboro, New Jersey, right outside New York City on a Friday to Palm Beach and back from Palm Beach to the same location on Monday. So that proves what? That proves nothing. Unlike, say, Steve Bannon, who went to Epstein's New York apartment, who went to Epstein's apartment in Paris, who did 15 hours of video that I believe was designed to rehabilitate Epstein. This was between the time that Epstein was charged with a sex crime in Florida and prior to his being charged with child sex trafficking by the Trump administration in New York City in 2019. So the sooner we learn everything, Sean, the better. I agree with you, however, this piecemeal approach has not worked. Let's get it all out there. The one thing the president could do, I think he should do, is all those documents that are already redacted should be unredacted with the exception of the victims' names. We do want to protect the identity of the victims. But other than that, all the documents that are already public, and there are many of them, because I use many of them in the preparation of my book, should be released. Why these Democrat judges don't want to release the grand jury testimony in Florida and New York, it's a very curious question. They could be protecting, I don't know, maybe like a former president, like, I don't know, perhaps Bill Clinton.
All right, guys, I hate to interrupt this conversation, but if you're loving the Sean Spicer Show, maybe you want something to snack on, join me in getting a great snack in Masa Chips. These things are unbelievable. No seed oils, just 3 ingredients. And I'm telling you, they've got a ton of great flavors. Original, blue, lime, habanero. Oh, it's amazing. Every one of them is great. You can dip them. They're amazing. Go to masachips.com/Sean, S-E-A-N, masachips.com/Sean. Use code word Sean, spelled the right way, S-E-A-N, to get 25% off. All right, back to this great conversation. And remember, if you're watching the Sean Spicer Show, the official chip, masachips.com/Sean, code word Sean. So I agree with you. I think the Trump White House should basically put out as much as they can, stand there and explain it. I think there's certain things that you can't put out. Videos of minors, some victim testimony, but just to walk out and explain what's there, what's not. I agree with you. All these people in the past that we've heard about might be at the island all have a D next to their name. At some point, either a donor or an elected politician or someone appointed. I think that the more we get this out there, the better. And frankly, you're going to see a lot of Democrats regret that they pushed this.
Well, and yesterday I talked about this extensively. Now, sudden Robert Mueller's, he's too sick to go speak when he's subpoenaed. Now, there's evidence based on his congressional testimony immediately after the Russian collusion hoax that he was already beginning to suffer from dementia. When he was asked, for example, did you know that Jeannie Rhee, who is the chief prosecutor in my case, had previously represented Hillary Clinton in the illegal server case. And therefore, since I wrote extensively about the Clintons and that email server, that would be a conflict of interest. Mueller said, no, I didn't know that. Well, sorry, Mr. Mueller, that's your law partner. You didn't know what your law partner did. You didn't know who your firm represented. Another time he was asked about Fusion GPS. They're the guys who cooked up the phony Steele dossier. He said he'd actually never heard of them. So just like Joe Biden, I think he was mentally incompetent and a front man during the Mueller investigation, which is really run by the epically corrupt prosecutor Andrew Weissman. Just as Joe Biden was mentally incompetent, I think Mueller was mentally incompetent then and mentally incompetent then. However, the House committee that removed his subpoena did the American people a disservice. I don't care how sick he is. He should show up and testify. And by the way, their argument was not he can't testify because he has dementia. Their argument was he can't testify because he has Parkinson's. I have a relative with Parkinson's. He may have the shakes, but he is mentally extremely sharp. This guy is trying to evade justice. It's amazing. Suddenly they want to talk to him and he's too sick to testify. He should be compelled to testify. They should reinstate that subpoena. And if he doesn't show up, frankly, they should arrest him the way they did Peter Navarro.
Speaking of that, I want to contrast, the arrests and how people are treated. It was amazing to watch all of these leftists run to the defense of John Bolton. And it wasn't until, 2 days later where the New York Times sort of let the cat out of the bag that, oops, all this started under Joe Biden. But there was no such concern about how you were treated, how Mike Flynn has been treated, how any of these other people have been treated. And yet when John Bolton, when the FBI went after Bolton, initially it was how, I can't believe these right-wing people are, seeking retribution on him. And this is all about Trump going after his enemies. It wasn't until later that we find out that, Biden actually was looking into him because they picked up foreign surveillance on the top secret information he had.
Yeah, I mean, there's a legitimate reason why he was raided the way he was. Their fear was that he would destroy the classified documents that he was illegally in possession of if he knew a raid was coming. In my case, there is no rationale. They said, we had to arrest Stone by raiding his home at 6 o'clock in the morning with 29 fully SWAT-clad FBI agents carrying M4 assault weapons. They arrived in 17 armored vehicles. There were 2 amphibious units in the backyard because I used to live on this canal, helicopter overhead. Sean, the raid on my home cost the American taxpayers $1.1 million. They said the reason that they arrested me in this manner was that I was a flight risk. I didn't have a valid passport. And thanks to CNN, everybody knows exactly what I look like. Where was I going to go? It's an absurdity. The reason they arrested me in the way they did was to pressure me. That's because they had no case against me. And they later came back and tried to pressure me when they couldn't find any Russian collusion, and there wasn't any, and they couldn't find any WikiLeaks collaboration with the Trump campaign. They wanted to pressure me into lying. They wanted me to bear false witness against the president. They had no case. They wanted me to be the ham in their ham sandwich, and I was unwilling to do so. But I would have simply turned myself in, would have saved the taxpayers $1.1 million. But no, then CNN wouldn't have an opportunity to be 25 feet from my front door. Let me cover that very quickly. I'm arrested at 6:06. At 6:22, Sarah Murray, the reprobate who works for CNN, the non-journalist who works for CNN, sends my lawyer by text a copy of the draft of my criminal indictment, the draft. And it has no court markings or stampings on it. So when CNN says they got it online, that's a lie. But if you look at the metadata tags, you have the initials of the man who wrote it. Therefore, the man who leaked it, Andrew Weissman. That's a felony. But of course, the judge in my case did not care.
Would you want to see, I know a guy like Weissman, because I know you tweeted about this weekend. How should Weissman be treated, knowing what we know now about what he did during the Russia hoax, et cetera?
He should be brought before the grand jury to explain himself. He should, or in my case, I never went to the grand jury, never got a target letter. They use the terror tactic of leaking every week that Stone is about to be indicted. Stone is in Mueller's crosshairs. The noose tightens around Stone. This is a pressure tactic orchestrated by Andrew Weissman. Weissman should be charged. He should be given a fair trial, and he should be convicted. And if he's convicted of seditious conspiracy to engage in treason, Sean, you tell me what the legal punishment for treason is.
Well, I do. It's either life imprisonment or death, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, look, a judge could choose life in prison over capital punishment, but it's kind of serious. Andrew Weissman engaged in treasonous activity. He should get a fair trial. I didn't get a fair trial in D.C. I'd like to see him get a fair trial, and I'm confident that in Fort Pierce, Florida, which is where this continuing seditious conspiracy ends at Mar-a-Lago, in that raid, I think Andrew Weissman will get a fair trial. I also think he'll be convicted because he's guilty.
Well, let's hope that they actually seek some justice for all these people, because that's the thing. I don't think people fully appreciate what people like you and a lot of the other victims of the Mueller probe went through financially, to your family, to your mental health, and the more we learn, it's just it's amazing. And the funny thing about this now is you contrast this with what is going on with, say, Lisa Cook at the Fed, or Adam Schiff, by the way. And the thing about Adam Schiff and Tish James, these people who have committed mortgage fraud, and I know I'm not a lawyer or a judge, but at the end of the day, if you have 2 documents that list the same 2 different places as your primary residence, neither of which are your primary residence, and you did it to get a lower interest rate, that is mortgage fraud. We have the documents. We know they did it. In the case of Adam Schiff and Tish James, though, it's even worse, Roger. It's electoral fraud. Adam Schiff, according to the Constitution, must live in California. And if he is attesting to a house in Maryland as his primary residence, then he is electorally committing fraud as well. But these guys, the media is acting like somehow this is a witch hunt against Lisa Cook, Tish James, Adam Schiff. They actually committed fraud, and we have tangible, visible evidence of it.
No, you're exactly right. It's even worse than that. You see, they get let's take Letitia James, for example. She signed a power of attorney in which she said that the home she purchased in Virginia would be her principal legal residence. Well, then under the New York State Constitution, she's ineligible to be the New York Attorney General. Now we learn that she's harboring a wanted fugitive at that property. Her niece, who has a long rap sheet and has an outstanding warrant, is living at that house in Virginia. So she's moved from just simple clerical mortgage fraud, which is a felony, to harboring a criminal. Pretty serious stuff. In the case of Adam Schiff, this guy's amazing. His ability to lie with a straight face, never seen anything like it. He goes on NBC last weekend. He just says, it's just not true. It's just not true. This is really simple. He claimed that his condo in Burbank, California was his principal legal residence. He got a state tax break. He got a lower mortgage rate and a lower insurance rate. He said that his home in Potomac, Maryland was his principal legal residence. Once again, he got a state tax break and he got a lower mortgage rate and a lower insurance rate. That's fraud. Sean, if you or I did that, they'd put us in jail. But yes, he thinks that he's above the law. And then, as usual, he tries to lie his way out of it. Lisa Cook, every day we learn about a new transgression in her case. But the worst part about this is the judge, the president fired her, which I believe he has the right to do, for cause. 3 previous Federal Reserve governors resigned when they were under investigation for impropriety, just a historical footnote. But she sued the president, claiming he doesn't have the authority. But the D.C. clerk of the courts referred that case to a Black woman judge who happens to be in the same sorority as Lisa Cook. That's a stunning conflict of interest. And then to add insult to injury, the third person who's in that sorority is Joy Reid, a certified moron. So it is beyond belief that the president's lawyers have not moved to recuse Judge Gia Cobb. She has a conflict of interest. They're in the same secret society that's a Black woman's sorority. That's a conflict of interest. Judge Gia Cobb is the same one who ruled several days ago that President Trump doesn't have the right to deport dangerous illegals. She's wrong about that too. She's a Trump-hating leftist activist judge, the kind, Mr. Speaker, that your House should begin proceeding motions of impeachment against.
Just to be clear, because if someone's watching this right now, so they belong to the same sorority, does that somehow, do we know that they know each other or that they just belong to the same?
I think it would be immaterial. It creates the impression of a bias. This is a private organization. This goes back to the clerk of the D.C. courts, a woman named Angela Caesar. She's also an African American. Proved to us that there was a random selection. How did Jed Boasberg seem to get every single case that mattered to Donald Trump? Prove to us that you actually conducted with a wheel a random selection. I'm willing to bet you there was no random selection, and therefore she should be charged as well. By the way, Jim Jordan has already complained about this. He's written her a letter and said, we want to see evidence that there were really random selections in these cases. The DC court system is rotten to the core. Even the Republican judges there are biased, and there is no chance whatsoever that you will get a jury of your peers. There was not a single non-Democrat on my jury. We had veterans of the Clinton administration. We had veterans of the FBI. We had veterans of the Obama administration. We had people who had worked on Hillary's campaign. The judge said all of that was fine. We didn't have a single Republican. We didn't have a single military veteran. We didn't have a single Roman Catholic. How's that possible? The answer is it's not possible. It's rigged.
Yeah, it's DC for you. The last thing I want to ask you about is something that kind of caught my eye on your newsletter, The Stone Cold Truth with Roger Stone on Substack, which I highly recommend to folks. The headline is this: Trump should reschedule cannabis on the full way to descheduling it. You've known Donald Trump a lot longer than I have. He is very clear. No drugs, no alcohol, no smoking, no tattoos. Why does
Unless,
Roger Stone?
unless your tattoo is of Richard Nixon, but yes.
That's right. Okay. There's the exception. It's the I before the E. Explain to me why you think Donald Trump, of all people, is going to declassify pot. And as a conservative, Roger, prior to this big crackdown in D.C., walking through the city, whether it's D.C. or New York, I'm tired of smelling like urine and pot on every single block. It's disgusting. And I don't know why we want to decriminalize it, never mind why Donald Trump would want to do it.
Since 2016, when he got into politics, Donald Trump has always taken the position that this is a states' rights issue, that the states should decide. It makes no sense to have federal law and state law contradict each other. I agree with you. Public use of marijuana should be illegal. Just like carrying an open container of alcohol is illegal. We don't have drinking on every street corner. Here's my belief, and here's how I got into this. My father was dying of cancer. He was in horrific pain. He also had no appetite. So he went to weigh more than 200 pounds to weighing about 125 pounds. They were giving him OxyContin. That was just making him sicker. And it frankly became addicted to it. My sisters and I decided, this was back when it was illegal in New York State, to get him some marijuana. His appetite returned, he gained weight, and he could deal with the horrific pain. So I believe this has a medicinal value based on my own experience. 40 states have now legalized some form of cannabis. So all I want the president to do is to move it from a Schedule 1 drug, where it's classified with heroin, which is ridiculous, to be a Schedule 3 drug where you can solve the banking issues in the states where it's legal. You can solve the taxation issues because the people who are legally in the business aren't in many cases paying federal taxes, and they should be. And then lastly, we can regulate it so it can't be used in public, so you don't smell pot on every street corner. So I think it's a libertarian view, but it is consistent with the president's view that it's a states' rights issue. It's time to bring the state law and the federal law into sync.
Okay. It's a compelling case you make there, sir. Because I'm tired of, I agree with you. I asked the guest the other day from the DC Police Department, why can't I drink alcohol on a corner, but I can walk down the street, smoking a joint? And he was just like, because it's different. I mean, and it's ridiculous. It's insane to think that that's what happens. Roger, I appreciate you spending your Tuesday with us as we get ready to make our way towards the election day season. Lots of great insights here. Thank you for being with us.
Great to be with you again, Sean. I hope to see you soon.
Take care. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.